Let's get better every day, but don't let it create discontentment today. That's the key.
No matter how poor I do at something, if I'm doing it for God, it's always enough. If I'm giving it my all.
See, the mature leader and the healthy leader doesn't talk about getting it done. They talk about it getting it done the most effective way.
If I'm not giving it my all, I'm not doing it right. It's not enough. Pastor Mark Q.
Marlon Gordon.
What are
we doing? What are we doing today?
What are we doing? Well, we've been trying to do this for
months.
more than months.
Because you're so busy. This guy's so busy.
I think you're busier than me, sir.
But not with important things.
No,
you know what I mean? I had to buy shoes the other day.
Yeah, what would you get?
Well, I bought these.
Okay,
I bought
those.
these.
Those Cole Haans,
They're little.
what?
No. They're Johnson and Murphy.
Okay.
Because I got old feet. So that's old people shoes. Old people,
people's
but they're
shoes.
cool. But they're cool. They're not as cool as Ufo. Is he wearing Ufos? Are you wearing Ufos?
I don't know what DJ's wearing.
What are they? Oh, that's still good though.
Yeah.
I bought a pair of Ufos. The OOFOS. Is that how you say it? Ufos?
I have no idea. I've never seen UFOs before.
So they're supposed to be a sandal
Yeah.
for people who like exercise all the time, which that's not me, by the way.
You bike ride every morning.
I
don't
bike
you?
ride, but I'm not using my feet. I'm using my right. So I bought these because they say that after it helps rejuvenate your feet. But the reality is I bought them because they're wide and I have flat feet. So it makes my feet breathe. So I like it.
You like them?
I love it. They're super comfortable.
See, I need to get you a pair of these NxtGen Nikes. That's what I got.
Wow, dude. Those are cool.
Yeah, get these
those are really cool.
custom made
Matching
from
and
Nike.
I don't know if podcast viewers can see it, but they match the decor in the room.
Orange is kind of my color.
Kind of your color. Orange is your color?
Yeah, it's color I favor.
Is it really?
Orange, yeah.
I wouldn't have never thought that.
Why is that?
I don't know why.
You think I'm more of like a blue guy?
I thought you were
or-
more of like a purple guy, like a deep purple.
Hey, well, purple is the color of royalty. they
Royalty.
say.
Well, you see, now you took it to another level that
did,
we shouldn't.
and-
We don't need to.
And you know, fun fact, I have an uncle that was a knight,
What?
Sir Richard Edgerton.
Whoa.
Wild, right?
That is
He was an
crazy.
ambassador
I
from-
knight you.
Yeah.
I knight you, you holy
That
one.
was him. It's so crazy. I love how we start this podcast. We just go off on a tangent. That's great.
Just knights.
Yeah.
Knights in shining
Knights
armor.
and shoes.
Wait,
And
I've got a song in my head.
Are you gonna sing for us?
No, I'm not going to sing, but I'll probably say the. All right, forget it. I forgot who it was. It was by it's by the Doors,
Yeah.
but I can't remember the name. Is it Knights in White Satin?
I gotta check that out.
Wait, it could be the Yardbirds, the Doors, or Eric Clapton. I can't remember.
Those are
Knights in
three,
White Satin.
Okay.
Knights in White Satin. That's what it is.
So check it out.
Gosh, this is such a tangent.
Yeah, it is.
I got to go in 5 minutes. What do
All
you
right,
got?
so let's be quick then. All right. So speaking of music,
Oh my gosh.
So I want to get to know the PQ.
Yikes.
And I know you
Yikes.
started off in
There's
the
not
music
enough.
industry.
Yeah.
This is a story that's going to take longer than 5 minutes, probably so.
No, I'll take 1 minute.
All right, cool.
No, just kidding.
So what's your background, man? So I like to call this street cred.
Whoa.
Right?
Okay,
So
good.
tell me all the things that help make you who you are today.
Yeah.
Like, give me that story.
I think for our podcast listeners, I think the idea is, I didn't grow up. I'm a minister now, but I
Wait,
think
you are?
yeah. Well, to some people, clearly not to your family. I can see that, but I think what I spent, almost 22 years working at Warner Brothers in Nashville. Moved there from Brooklyn, New York to Nashville, and I think all of my formative years in trying to have a successful music career, which some would argue and some would say that I had one,
Yeah.
is where I really learned a lot of my leadership skills, because it was in my formative years, and my shortcomings, knowing, hey, I'm really good at this and there's some fruit to it, and then I'm really bad at this and there's some sour grapes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think it was all those years of pursuing a career and then reaching something I wanted to do and then doing that for so many years really kind of helped mature me, helped me. It was a self-revelation, made me very self-aware of what I can, what I can't do, the things. And I'm an insatiable, those years taught me to always learn from yesterday. Because when you make records for a living, there was a saying, I had a mentor at one time, he always say, you're as good as your last record. So don't think because your last record was great, your next record is going to be great. So which then translated from my leadership in, just because you had yesterday was a great day, and it could be, you still got to make today a great day. You still got to make it productive. You still have to. So I carried a lot of those principles I learned from one of my mentors over to my leadership and into what ultimately I do now.
Yeah.
So, so I think it's having that background and working in the marketplace that really helped me to obviously where I am. We're an accumulation of all our experiences, right? So those experiences and having to pay your dues and those experiences of having to what I call delay gratification. I want it now, but I can't get it. But do I really want to do what it takes to get it?
That's something that took me forever to learn.
Yeah.
Like, I feel bad for kids today because today, whatever you want, you can get it right now.
Right.
You want to order the latest video game, you can just download it. You want to order some new shoes, go to Amazon, set your door like 3
Exactly
hours,
right.
right?
That's exactly. And what happened, even driving here today to be with you, I was texting someone back and forth and they're in Boston.
Yep.
It took 2 seconds. I sent a text, boom, he sent it right back.
Yeah.
So it's this immediate gratification, but really the maturity comes in delayed gratification. I was one of those guys early when we first got married, to go, oh, you know what? I got great credit, so we're going to buy a bedroom set. We're going to buy a bedroom set on, back then, I don't know if they do it now, but back then it was like no payments for 2 years.
Yeah.
And we're like, man, this is awesome. So it would be X dollars. Let's say the bedroom set, I can't remember what it was, $700. By the time I was ready to pay it back and then forgot, and then I didn't want to pay for it because then it had a bunch of dings in it, stains on it. You know what I mean? All of these things, right?
Yeah.
That's where I learned, oh my gosh, you got to learn to delay gratification. But it's really hard, like you said, in today's generation, because everything is at their fingertips, whether it's, you Google it, whether it's talking to someone, whether it's ordering.
GPT.
Oh my gosh. You don't even have to be smart anymore.
I don't have to be smart anymore. It's great.
Not you.
It's amazing.
But I think somebody, there's a big controversy. A friend of mine was writing. He was talking at a convention, and he had texted me and he said, hey, send me your notes on this one subject. So I sent it to him, and he said to me, Chat GPT was more clear than your notes, because my notes are like streams of consciousness, and I just write out thoughts and then I organize them later. You know what I mean? And I was like, that's scary.
It is scary.
That's nuts. You know what I mean? It's gonna make me. I think if I use it right, it'd make me sound really smart.
Oh, I could absolutely. Well, so you called out DJ earlier, so DJ is here helping out today. He was showing me some stuff with AI video that he's been playing with. So he gave, I forgot, Pika DJ? Pika, yeah.
Pika, yeah.
He gave Pika a prompt to have him walking down an alley and turn him into an anime character. It was the craziest thing ever.
Yeah, it's that stuff, like for us, as leaders in the community, that it gets me a little scared, because I'm already dealing with people who are asking, hey, somebody put out a video of me and I was, walking into a place, or I was coming out of a place, and it was a quick clip, because right now the technology, if the clip's too long, it starts to look a little fake. But if it's just the right length, it's truly reality for a lot of people. And so a lot of people who are in the public eye are really nervous about that, because now anybody can put together something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I go to my favorite Cuban sandwich shop, but I don't want my guy mad at me because somebody posted a video of me walking out of another Cuban sandwich shop.
Because that could happen.
Relationships could get ruined.
Exactly.
We don't want that.
No, we don't.
So that's a little scary. Fun.
Yeah.
And you can do a ton of creative, but like with anything else, every tool used to enhance life can be abused to wreck life.
Yeah.
And that's what's hard. That's what's hard right now.
And you said a tool. It absolutely is a tool. And perfect example, right? So I had the honor of doing a podcast with the USDA Administrator Long a couple weeks ago.
Wow,
right?
I love that.
And I asked a gentleman to take a picture of us. I'm not going to call him out. I'm not going to put him on blast.
Don't say his name.
It's my guy.
Don't say his name. Good guy. We love him. We like him. Right.
And he's not a photographer, right? So he takes a picture, and Administrator Long is kind of like cut off on the side. And this was the only photo I had. And I was like, oh man, what am I going to do? AI. So I was able to take the picture, drop it into AI, and pretty much like make a rectangle around the actual photo and tell the AI to fill in the rest, and it filled in the rest. And it wasn't perfect. I'd probably say it was like
really
80% there. And the thing that it messed up was a microphone, right? It put in its own version of a microphone because it had to match my microphone.
Sure,
right?
sure.
So I had my graphic designer, one of them, she just copied my mic and dropped on top of that mic, and it was perfect. So perfect. So if you see a picture online with me and Administrator Long, thank you, AI.
Thank you, AI. Good guy, though.
AI. Great guy.
Good guy.
Tony's a great guy.
Although it was a fake photo. Fake. Really, not really completely.
Not
it
really
was
fake.
real. It was just enhanced.
Yeah.
See, I like that. I like it better enhanced.
I like that.
Fake sounds fake.
It does sound
Sounds
fake.
like
A
the
little fake.
integrity issue.
No, definitely.
No, this is definitely not an
It's
integrity
USDA.
issue. We just had to make it look excellent.
Exactly.
That's scary.
Yep.
Yeah, I
Anything
think
less
that's
than
the way.
excellence is unacceptable.
That's
so.
exactly right. That's exactly, and that's where even back in the music business, what I do today, you know, when you're putting out a product that is to be consumed, whether it's listening, whether it's eating, whether it's whatever it is, or visually, but when people are consuming it, you know, that's where I learned the principle of excellence was you got one shot to make a first impression, everything else is damage control. So make sure when you put out your product, however it's being consumed, but by whatever senses, that's where I learned the excellence thing. Because then after that, everything else is like, well, yeah, you know, I listened to that record and it wasn't that good. Why would I buy this one? Or man, I like those glasses, but they didn't fit me right, so I'm not going to buy that brand again. And that lingers. That first indelible mark that's made by a consumer or whatever, or whoever, is really hard to unwind. It's really hard to unwind. So we try to, even in what we do today, we try to always, because what we say is excellence honors people. It honors people. It's just like people, what I say, people coming over the house. Even here, you know, I walked into the studio, everybody greeted me. You had my favorite Cuban sandwich. There were drinks. I kind of feel like you prepared for me. I feel honored. I feel like, man, thank you. They're looking forward to me. Same thing with people coming over your house. You know what I mean? I know your family. Your family's beautiful and they're so congenial. But I come over the house, I know. The fridge is full. There's food on the table. The bathrooms have been cleaned. You know, we've prepared for you. And I think when you put out product like that to be consumed by whatever senses, that's an important principle to know, that first mark is so indelible, is so ingrained that it's really hard to unwind. And I learned that in the marketplace. I learned that in the music business.
How do you handle people that can't handle your excellence?
Yeah, I think what happens a lot of times is what I'll hear a lot because we're talking about me, Marlon.
Yeah, it's all about
it's
you.
very important. It's all about me. I think. I'm just kidding.
Is.
I'm totally kidding. Stop. What happens is I often hear the bar's too high. I hear the bar's too high, or I have unrealistic expectations. And I had to really wrestle with that in my formative years, like we talked about. So what I had to come to the conclusion of is, for a first level of understanding is, people typically rise to the level of your expectation. They typically rise to the level of their expectation. That's number one. Number two, people typically underestimate their capabilities. They typically just do. So I operate from those two principles all the time. But what I had to do then is, in my formative years, and especially now in what I do, is look at and turn around and say, is it unreal? An unrealistic expectation means, given the resources of time, money, equipment, whatever it is, you still couldn't attain it. So that's unrealistic. But realistic means, given the tools, meaning money, time, whatever the tools are, could you do it? And that's where I always drive people and motivate people and inspire people. You have all of the tools to make a great piece of art. Like you were talking about with your photo. We have all of the tools. We have Wi-Fi, we have computers, we have access to a program, the AI program, to make this photo excellent. It's pretty good now, but given all the right, well, then that's not unrealistic. So it's realistic, we can do this. And that's what I try to do every day now, is go, okay, that's an unrealistic expectation, but this is actually realistic because you do have the tools. So that's kind of, so how I handle people is I literally go, no, don't be discouraged. Don't think, oh my gosh, that's so hard. I'm never going to be able to do that. I'm not, no. Slow down, look at what you have. We have all the ability, we have the time, we have the resources, the money, whatever it is. Now we can do it. So let's go.
So, all right. So I suckered you into a therapy session here, right?
Oh,
A
gosh.
counseling session.
That's scary. I got to get you to sign a waiver.
Yeah, right.
Just in case.
Yeah.
Right.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right. So have you ever caught yourself in a position where you're wondering, like, when is enough enough? And I'm going to use this podcast as my example.
All right.
So I started a podcast about a year and a half ago, 2 years, something
Right.
like that, right? And it was just audio only. Supposed to be something I can do when I'm on the road as like an extra service or offering, or really for me to learn, because I want to learn from people. I just love people, right?
Sure.
And plus my wife said, if you're going to be away, make it worth it. So when I'm away,
And she's
make it worth
brutal,
it.
by the way.
Yeah.
She's brutal. If you want to know who runs everything around here,
She's the boss.
good Lord.
She's the boss.
Yikes.
So it was literally just my MacBook and then 2 microphones,
Yeah.
right? And I was like, oh, that's cool, right? So let me, like, how can I get better? And then I was like, I see your podcast, and I'm like, all right, maybe I should use video, because if I use video, I can chop up the clips, use it different ways, different places, get more engagements, that sort of thing, right? So I get these 1080p cameras, film my first couple podcasts,
Yeah,
right? So
yeah,
two
yeah.
podcasts, that's it.
That's awesome.
And then I'm like, I can be better. Like, I should be better.
Right.
So I step it up and I get GoPro 4K cameras, right? I have 3 of those, use them for like another 2 episodes. And then I see your guys' podcast, and Brad, it's just so crispy.
Right.
And this guy I follow on YouTube is actually a coach of mine. His name is Omar El Takori.
Oh, yeah.
And he's actually a pastor too, which is super
Yeah.
cool. And his videos look amazing. I'm like, all right, I got to step it up again. Should I do it? Do I need to do it? This is supposed to be like a one-man show.
Right.
But if I get these cameras, it's really not one man anymore. And in my head, I'm like, yeah, why not? I can do it.
Right.
So I step it up when I get 3 DSLR cameras, right? Film another, like, maybe 3 or 4 episodes. I'm still not content at this
Right,
point. I'm
sure.
still not content. I'm still competing with you, right? In a positive way.
Right. In a good way.
In a good way. And actually getting coached from Brad. Like, 'cause Brad and I
Brad's
go back and
awesome. Yeah,
forth
Brad.
and like, hey,
Yeah, Brad's our producer on the
Yeah.
Just Lead podcast, and he's excellent.
amazing.
Right.
And we go
He's
back
awesome.
and forth sharing information, this
Yeah.
and that. And then I'm like, all right, so this camera overheated, so let me just get a whole new line of cameras. So now I'm using cinema cameras.
It's crazy.
And
I know.
then that wasn't enough. And then I have cinema lenses also. And I'm like, why did, like,
What
I
happened?
know why I did it. It's because of what you said. Like, I want to honor my guests' time.
Right.
And if you're going to take time out of your day,
Right.
or if someone's going to take time, like the USDA, right? I had them on my podcast, the Dairy Council, all sorts of
That's
influential,
massive
important,
responsibility.
busy
Right.
people.
Yeah.
I'm like, if I'm not giving it my all, I'm not doing it right. It's
Yeah.
not enough. Like, I'm always striving for excellence.
Sure.
But can you ever be too excellent when your excellence is almost your way to give God glory? Like, I'm
Right.
not being excellent for other people or for me, really.
Right.
It's for Him.
Right.
But is there overkill in
Yeah.
there somewhere?
So what a great question, especially for people who strive to always be better.
Yeah.
So what a great question for people who always find themselves. You said the word, and it was the key word. It's a great question for people who have trouble being content. The reality is, you can be content but never satisfied.
You can be
So
content.
you can be content but never, like, here's the idea. So we'll go back to what you were saying about the podcast. Okay, so you had GoPros, good cameras. Good cameras, you can get good shots, you can get good composition. But if you didn't have the resources, whether it was time, money, or the technology, someone to run it, you can have great technology, but if you don't have somebody to run it, it's no good, okay? So if you're able to do that, but you're not able to get past the GoPro cameras because of certain resources not available to you, then you got to be to learn to content in the season that you're in. Striving for, hey, one day I want to get that DSLR, right?
Yeah.
Camera. But that's not today. But today, so what winds up happening to most people who don't understand you can be content but not satisfied is then in the day that they have to be content, they're discontent and they're not as happy or joyful for what they have because happiness or fulfillment or like, yeah, is always over there somewhere.
Oh, gotcha.
So you've got to be content, but you don't have to be satisfied. So for a record, let's say, we would record a record. We'd have an artist. We put out the record. It would sell 3, 4, 500,000 copies as gold. So it would sell 250, 300,000 copies. We were joyful. We had a top 5 single. We'd have a single. We'd have a #1 song. Great. But then we would get in a room. We'd celebrate all those things. But then we would get in a room and go, why do we not have a gold record? It's selling a lot of records and it's getting great radio play. Yeah. It's a lot of downloads. That's awesome. But why? And then we analyze what? Well, we couldn't. We didn't have the marketing budget. See, tools. The artist would not tour for whatever reason. So all of these things limit your ability to go to the next level, we like to say, or to make it more excellent. Yeah. But if you had all of those things in place, tools, well, then there's no reason why you shouldn't. And so I would say when you're talking about your podcast like that and the development, the maturation of the podcast, I would go, yeah, there's nothing wrong with that because you had the wherewithal to do it. You had the personnel, the technology. It's always about people and all of that. So yeah, you always strive, but you have to, everybody has to learn to be content where they are, but you don't have to be satisfied. Yeah. You know what I mean? So, but just don't make the non-satisfaction create discontent in the season you're in. That's when you're just discouraged, and then you're not always happy. You're not always happy. You're not always joyful. We're meant to be joyful. Yeah. So look at what we got, man. This is awesome. This is what's great. But there's going to be a day. Same thing. Watch even on Just Lead podcast. We're like, X amount of downloads, and we always talk about why isn't it more downloads? Why isn't it da da da? Well, I'll tell you one reason. Like on our Just Lead podcast, because I don't want to do. I don't want to do like tours. I don't want to travel. I love my community. I love my family. I hate being away from them. I traveled a lot in my younger years. So there's a lot of things that are not going to make the podcast blow up even more, or we should call it more exposure. Yeah. I just released a 40-day devotional. So our publisher is literally like, we got a book tour for you. I'm like, I'm not doing any. I'm not doing it. Not that anything's wrong with that. I just don't want to. I love what I wrote. I love it's being embraced by people in our community. I'm good. I'm ready. But I'm not going to be discontent because I'm not selling more books. Yeah. Because there's some tools that are not available to me, or I've chosen not to take advantage of, so I have to be content. So does that make sense?
It does make sense, and it sounds like contentment requires discipline too.
The discipline of the mind, for sure. Discipline of the mind, because of kind of what we talked about in the beginning of the podcast was because everything is at our disposal so quick and so easy right now. It can almost lend itself to striving too much, and so you pass by the joy and the fulfillment and the contentment of today because you're striving and going because it's at your disposal tomorrow. Yeah. And it's a discipline. What I say, it's a discipline of the mind. Yeah. No, I'm good. Take an evaluation of everything around you and be good and be joyful. But hey, man, strive. Yeah. I was with one of the head trainers for the Toronto Blue Jays a couple of months back, and the Toronto Blue Jays have a saying in their clubhouse. It's written over all the clubhouse walls. It says, get better every day. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so let's get better every day, but don't let it create discontentment today. Yeah. That's the key. So it's a discipline. Awesome. Yeah. So it's hard. So
talk to me about the Just Lead podcast. What's that all about? I mean, I know what it's all about.
Yeah.
I'm a listener. But.
Yeah, I know. We have so much fun. I mean, Brad Chandler's our producer, and we started it couple of years now back, and it started with X with Q. Yeah. Because my last name is so long, everybody just calls me Q, which is awesome. But X meant 10 minutes, so it was like a 10-minute podcast of just hit a subject and hit it, and it kind of really took off a little bit. Yeah. So then Brad wanted to make the format a little longer. So right now it's usually about 23 minutes. So you can listen to it on wherever you listen to your podcasts, Apple Music, Spotify, whatever. But it's leadership. Yeah. And so we adhere to the idea that leadership is influence, and everybody has influence. Whether you are a homemaker, whether you have a part-time job, full-time job, CEO, or you work as a support staff, that leadership is influence. So we say, just lead. Yeah. So just lead through whatever. So we take various situations that come up. How would you lead through this? And our phrase is, it's just not lead anymore. Yeah. It's lead healthy. So what is a healthy leader? How does a healthy leader deal with an employee who's back-talking leadership? Or how do you deal with, you know, if you're a homemaker, whether you're a guy or a girl, it doesn't matter. Well, how do you deal with your influence, your leadership in a healthy way with your children when they don't do X or they want to do so-and-so, but you don't want them to? So that's what it is. It's just lead in every sphere of life. We have fun too.
We have fun. And I have to say, listening to your podcast and being in your orbit has made me a better leader.
Oh man, thank you.
So for the people that don't know this, I told you this before.
Yeah.
I used to go to a church that you preached at when I was in high school. So like, we're talking like 25 plus years ago.
I'm 75. So just so we're clear,
you look great.
Marlon has made me feel 75 right now. That's awesome.
And there was this one sermon, and I don't remember what you were talking about or why I used this analogy, but it was about Oreos. Like you made some analogy to Oreos.
Yeah, well, I'm a sugar nut. That's the problem. I love sweets, and I'm just an Oreo guy. I love Oreos.
You're talking about Oreos. And I related. I love Oreos too. But I don't know. Are you the chocolate or vanilla?
No, don't deviate from the classic.
No,
like this whole see, double stuff. It's too much. Too much of a good thing.
Too much of a
good thing. And then you got the flavors. They come out with the strawberry ones.
See,
they
now
come
they're
out with
going
the vanilla.
too far.
No. Stop it.
That's too far. Vanilla.
Stop.
Come on, vanilla's.
It's just so we're clear. The inside of an Oreo is nothing but, I don't know if people know what Crisco is.
Yeah, I know what Crisco
Shorten
is.
it, right.
Yeah.
All it is sugar and lard. That's all the inside of an Oreo is.
So good.
However, beautiful.
Delicious.
See, it's too much though. Double stuff, too much.
Too much
Too much
excellence?
for a good
Is that
thing.
too much excellence?
No. No, you can overdo it. You got to, we used to say a thing in the music business, rock and roll, leave him wanting more. You have one Oreo and you're like, you know what? I could have 2 or 3, but you eat one double stuff and you're like, that's good because you overloaded on the lard. Okay. So you can do too much sometimes.
So lard in moderation.
That's right. Or sugar in moderation, either one.
That's funny. Well, anyways, so I'm in high school.
Yeah.
I see you preach. I'm like, oh, I like this guy, right?
Yeah.
And then I don't see you for a long time. And then I come to find out, like, as an adult, I get married, I move to a different city, whatever. Yeah. You had launched a church.
Yeah.
Right? And around that was around the time that, it was probably like 6 months before I left.
Wow.
To go to South Carolina. I took a job. I left my district job here at Pasco County, and I went to South Carolina. But you were always in my head. Like, I spent 6 months at the new location.
Yeah.
Up in Tarpon, and you were always in my head. And then when I started my company, and it came time for me to move back, God was like, call PQ, email PQ,
isn't that crazy?
text PQ,
right?
And I just put it off. I'm like, oh, he's busy or I'm busy, whatever, right? And then finally I did it. And then we sat down and we talked at church one day.
I remember,
just hung out. And I don't know, maybe like 45 minutes, an hour, whatever it was that you sat there with me, you poured into me so much that led me to be able to, I don't know, like do what I'm doing now.
That's
and
awesome. Yeah.
I had never seen myself really as a leader.
Right.
I never really wanted to be a leader. I was always hiding behind other people because I didn't want the responsibility, all right? But then you saw something in me, and then you actually kind of like forced me into leadership also with the internship.
Marlon, let's not say it. Let's not use it. Let's use a different word than force.
No, he did.
Force.
You encouraged me.
Although highly motivated you.
Yeah.
I'd like to think of it like that.
I was definitely motivated. And man, like just like I said, being in your orbit and just being able to listen to you on Sundays, listen to the Just Lead podcast, and it's been so helpful
man.
for me.
Yeah. I think that's part of what we miss as leaders. You know, I think conventional wisdom is leaders get things done. Leaders, and that's absolutely true. Yeah. But we get a little bit myopic about it. Like, so we think leaders are just doers. Cool. But we also, a big sliver of leadership or healthy leadership is seeing things in people that they don't see themselves or for themselves. And that's part of what leadership does. Healthy leadership is based on multiplication, not addition. Multiplication, multiply yourself, especially if you're in an organization. You know, what can they be doing that you do? But if they did it better. And I'm actually in a situation, before I came here, I was on a phone call about somebody on our staff.
Yeah.
And I'm no longer, and you should, healthy leadership does not think that they're the resident expert in anything.
Oh, yeah.
You know, they're always bringing teams, you know, I always bring people close that are my weakness.
Yeah.
Which means I have a big team.
Yeah,
you know,
me too.
But right, that's what I'm saying. So I'm having a conversation with this person now. I'm their boss. But I'm like, what do you think? Well, what about that? So I know I have the final decision. But good, healthy leadership raises up people, and it starts with seeing something. I saw something in you and still do. That like this guy has got this level of personality, has a level of intellect, and he has a level of skill. Man, are we sure, Marlon, we're using that to maximize not only your life, your family, your kids, your wife, but your organization? So what is that? Let's identify it. Let's build around your weaknesses so that you can do what only you can do or we're created to do. And that's my favorite part of leadership. You know, we got to make hard decisions. We all get like, it's all sexy to have your name at the bottom of a check or whatever. But I find that it's more fulfilling for me to do that conversation you and I had several years ago of just going, man, talk to me about what you want to do. Here's what I see in you. Do you see that? And I love that stuff.
And I had no idea what I wanted to do. Like all I knew is that I wanted to serve God.
Right.
I didn't know how to do it or where to begin. And I thought that, you know, my way of serving needed to specifically be like in the church. Like I had to be a red shirt, or I had to like work childcare or whatever it is.
Right.
But you don't like this in a way. Perfect example today, right?
Yeah.
So I started a podcast. I get into this whole thing that is NxtGen Network. And I went to go see Raul Serrano, our mutual chiropractor, right?
That's right.
He has a place here. And I had just moved into the studio. And I went to his office. He wasn't there. So I make a loop, right? I'm like, oh, well, who else is back here? Never been to this wing before. Let me see who else is here. And I walk by this room, and I hear a guy say leadership. And I'm like, oh, cool. So I keep walking, and God's like, turn around.
Wow.
Go talk to this guy.
Yeah, right.
So I turn around, go talk to him. Turns out he is a pastor at a church that you are familiar with, not too far away, over Grace Family.
Yeah.
And they're launching a podcast, but they needed help with production. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like my opportunity to serve, to do some kingdom business, right? I'm going to donate, give my time for this cause. And we actually filmed our first episode this morning at 6 a.m.
Oh, I love it.
And dude, it's called Altered Manhood. And it is awesome. Like, I'm picking up tons of information. It's changing my life too, just by donating my time, producing this thing for these three pastors, and it's been cool. So, yeah, I just love it.
Well, and that's what I think a lot of people miss in the church too, is that they think you can only lead in the church when in reality, you know, the church is really just a gathering of people, right? We know that by definition. But because what we talked about in the first beginning of the podcast was because I didn't grow up in ministry, so to speak.
Yeah.
I grew up in the marketplace and spent over 20 years in the marketplace. I have firsthand knowledge and experience knowing that you can be a difference maker and not have a job at a church. And a lot of times, sometimes, dare I say, even a bigger difference maker in the marketplace as a believer and follower of Christ, more so sometimes than even a person who is a professional in professional ministry, or what I call professional ministry.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so I place a really high value on that because that's where I started. Yeah. It's like you can be, and not everybody is meant to be in professional ministry, but we all are meant as believers and followers to have a level of influence for the sake of the kingdom. Yeah. And a lot of times that happens outside of professional ministry. You know, and that's what I get excited about with a lot of people because that's where I came from.
I love the fact that you said that everybody isn't meant to be in professional ministry.
Oh, no.
Because my wife sitting back there right now, Ashley, has always said, oh, she's glaring now.
Oh, she's glaring now.
She was like, you're meant to be a pastor. And I'm like, no, no, I'm not.
And maybe she sees something that I may not see. But anyway, just because I don't want anything thrown at me now while we're recording. But the reality is, and maybe that's true because, watch, there are just certain attributes of how people are built and wired innately by God that do dictate where you're going to end up and what you're going to do. Yeah. That's just the way it is. Yeah. That's just the way life is. Okay. I don't know that God wanted me as a pastor when I was at Warner Brothers. I don't know that I had enough. How would we say it? I don't know if I had like all the rough edges knocked off. Not that you can't have rough edges and be a pastor, but the countenance, let's say, the strength to the criticism. I built all that up in the music business. You know, people ask all the time, you know, because we get so many emails of people that hate what I say and they think they heard something or whatever.
I love when you tell people to email you during your
yeah,
sermons.
I do. I tell people every weekend when I speak, I just email me if you got a problem, and then I just hit delete because it doesn't make any sense, or they make it personal, and it's not personal, you know. But I learned that skill or that countenance or that wiring through the music business. You know, you spend 7 months on a record, and then you release it worldwide, basically.
Yeah.
And then everybody and their mother is making fun of, criticizing the record that you have poured your emotions, your heart into, everything. So you learn the skill of dismissing criticism, especially by a guy who's, or a lady, but they're, you know, they've never made a record. They're not musical. They're sitting behind a computer in a 2-day-old sweatshirt and 4-day-old sweatpants, commenting on your record.
Yeah.
But you learn, my point is, and I'm not making fun, my point is that's how God was preparing me for the next season.
Yeah.
Because none of that, and now I coach a lot of leaders and pastors going, hey, don't let criticism wreck you. Let it make you better, and then dismiss the invalid ones. Because you know what I mean? But so in that way, that's where I feel like sometimes happens. You know what I mean? Is God in a season prepares you for the next season. Whereas if I would have went into that earlier, who knows? You know what I mean? I'd be like half these other crazy pastors. My own level of crazy though.
What?
You know?
But like, why'd you get into it? Like, how?
It was hard. You know, we definitely were praying one day, and with my responsibilities at my previous church, there was no fallout. There was no like, you know, we didn't like we didn't like the leadership. There was no theological difference. It was really a desire to do a method or a style of delivering God's word that was better received if we would have done our own church. That's really all it was. You know, when it comes down, I'm great friends with my previous place of employment, with previous church, been now 14 years, 13 years, whatever it is. It was great. It was just, I just felt like the way I talk about scripture, because of my background, not necessarily unique, but definitely different. 20-something years in the marketplace, then what we use the word called or directed into planting a church, is just a different angle, not a better angle, not just a different angle or delivery or style that was better received if we would have planted a church rather than try to incorporate it in an established DNA. And I think that's something I even coach leaders today, even when you're coming from another corporation, another organization into one, whether it's high-level leadership or support staff, you got to be careful that whatever you're transferring from your previous place, that DNA, is still a fit and an asset into the DNA that you're going into. See, I learned that principle there. I don't know that I would have been able to, not because people didn't love me or they didn't support me, but it was just such different DNA that it wouldn't have mixed. And that's why I believe, you know, God led Trish and I, my wife, to plant the church, 13 years ago.
When you guys were called, was it an easy transition for you? Was it difficult? Were you excited?
It was horrible. It was horrible, man. It was horrible because I loved the place I was at. And there was fruit from the gifts that God had given me. I had great relationships with most of the employees, not all of them, but most of them, and still to this day have great relationships, which are great. But it was hard because there was nothing pushing me out in terms of anger or hurt or none of that. It was literally God calling, God saying, and I'm like, well, are we sure? And a little bit of what you talked about before, Marlon, was I don't know that I ever saw myself as what we would call the lead guy, the senior guy, whatever the words are, the number one, whatever. Yeah. I never did because I had always been in a support role. Yeah. Although highly influential a support role. At Warner Brothers, I started as an intern. And 21 years later, I left as vice president of artist development.
Wow.
So I worked my way, but still, even at that level, I wasn't the guy.
Yeah.
You know, I had a lot of influence, sure. So I never saw myself as that. That's number one. And then number two, I didn't have a reason to leave other than God saying, which is, don't get me wrong, is a big one.
Yeah.
but emotionally, it was very difficult because of relational connection. And then two, my kids didn't want to go because my kids were very locked into their relationships. So it was navigating the change because the change was happening because of a calling, not because of a hurt. It's a lot easier to navigate a change when you're hurt, but it's harder to navigate a change when you know, hey, things are good, but God wants me to stop, but it's good.
Yeah.
It's going good. There's a lot of fruit and things are happening, but it's really difficult emotionally, spiritually, physically, everything. You know what I mean? Plus, we started the church. You know, I know it's hard to believe because I look 25, but typically church planters are around in their mid-20s, 23 to 26. We planted the church 13 years ago. I was 46.
Wow.
And so we were like, I'm too old. I'm too old for this. I don't want to do this. You know what I mean? So it was just interesting. So it was really, really hard. It was really difficult, but it worked out great.
Were you always into public speaking?
The story is the biggest public speaking I ever done back, when I was in the music business was I had to get in front of the sales team and talk about the record because you got to motivate your salespeople. Now this is before downloads and digital, you know what I mean? This was when we had record, right, exactly. We had record stores back then, Tower Records, all these different places, and that was it. So it was a sales force of maybe 40 or 50, and I would have anxiety attacks. Like I would literally get so nervous, anxiety, whatever the words are, because I wanted to do well.
Yeah.
But I knew that I wasn't. I talked very Brooklyn. I was very, like just in your face. I didn't mean to be harsh, but that's kind of sometimes back then. That's kind of the way it came. So it still happens that way now too. But no, I never spoke. That was it. And no sales conferences were 4 a year. That was it. It was only 4 a year. So, and I only spoke for 20 minutes and I had graphics, here's the new record. Here's the cover. Here's the incentive. If you sell in 5,000 copies to Tower Records, then I talked about, bonuses. We give trips. Okay. That was it.
How did you get past it?
I'd have massive anxiety attacks. I don't know. Most people don't know this. I don't know that I ever did. I manage it now. So I manage it. So by Friday, because we have weekend services, right, at our church, at the chapel. So we have Saturday night and then 3 on Sunday.
Saturday night, what's up?
Saturday night, sinners. Anyway, just kidding. So I basically shut my whole life down Friday and part of Saturday to get prepared and totally, the message is already done. But I actually have never really, I've just learned to manage the anxiousness. It's not nervous, like I'm trying to perform or I want it to go. But it means so much to me that people understand what God is like, what he wants for them, and how he has a plan for them. It's so important to me that people get that it's this added weight that it's self-induced, that I have to manage. I have to manage my emotions. So I'm constantly, I kind of blank out all stimuli or whatever and literally just concentrate on the message. So I still get not nervous, but I still go, what am I doing every week? Now we're going on 13 years. I do it every week. I go, God, what am I doing? Like, what am I saying? Oh, this is stupid. Nobody's going to get this. Nobody. I do it every week.
So
every week.
A few things. I think a lot of times when I say things, it comes out stupid or I didn't do it the right way. It wasn't good enough.
Yeah.
And I was speaking to a men's group over in Seminole County this is like 2 years ago. And I was like, after I was like, oh my gosh, I bombed that. I didn't say this. I didn't say that. Like, that was horrible. I don't know why my friend asked me to come speak to these guys. And I get a call 2 days later, and Richard was like, bro, they loved what you had to say. Like, I have guys reaching out to me, thanking me for having you on and this and that.
Wow.
And I was like, and that was an example to me that no matter how poor I do at something, if I'm doing it for God, it's always enough. If I'm giving it my all, right? But then, like, even going back to the whole, like, public speaking thing, I never, like, 10 years ago, I was just a nerdy guy sitting in a corner fixing computers. I didn't want to talk to anybody ever. And God just kept putting it on my heart, like, speak more. I'm like, no, I'm fine. And he's
Right.
like, speak more, right?
Isn't that funny? Yeah.
So I started doing like breakout sessions at like conferences and speaking like at work events and those sorts of things, never knowing that I was going to be on a platform where I have to speak all the time. And it was terrifying to me back then. And it's like just looking back at how he prepared me for like this conversation.
Exactly right.
It's just amazing.
Yeah. And I think the key line that you said there was, it's not about performing. It's not about people wanting to love me or you or the speaker. It's not about people, accolades. Sure, everybody wants to hear attaboy, it was great.
Yeah.
But it's in what you said was going, is the power in you or is the power in the word? Now, it's our job to steward it. It's our job to talk about it in a way there's a reason why Jesus spoke in parables, in ways that people can digest it and then apply it. So there's an importance to that. Don't get me wrong. But the key is never get so caught up in the presentation that you forget about the power of the word.
Yeah.
And that's what you just explained. You were like, you're prepared. I know you. Trust me, I know you. You're prepared. But if we get so caught up in what I say, how did I say it? What do I look? What do I do? Well, then now it's about us.
Yeah.
And we forget, maybe inadvertently, but a lot of times we forget that it's the power of the word, the spoken word, which is communicating the Bible and God's heart for people. That's the key. And there's power in that, regardless of our shortcomings, regardless of, we said something that was too Brooklyn or not polished or whatever. And I think especially today when authenticity is the equity. Authenticity is the equity right now. So for guys like us who aren't formally trained, who are just, we just have a lot of experience with good and a lot of experience through our mistakes. The authenticity is really helping us right now. Yeah. That's a high equity exchange. Because people will hear me speak on the weekend and they're like, I don't know if that was grammatically correct. But then my team will go, but did you get it? And they're like, oh, I totally got it. Well, that's the point.
Yep.
The point isn't that I'm this incredible orator. The point is, did you get what I was trying to say? And if they go, yeah, well, then it's a win. What does it matter how I said it? Yeah. You know what I mean? That's the win. So that's what I love, about what you said. Authenticity is massive.
It is. All right, so next counseling question.
Oh boy!
All right,
so far so good. You're not crying, so that's a good thing.
So I heard you talk about this on one of your podcasts. But how do you manage your time? Because I'm currently in a position where a lot of people want a piece of me. Like I'm getting stretched in a million different directions, and I need to give myself more time. I actually feel like I'm starting to get tired. Yeah.
It's crazy. This is not a good subject for me because I am absolutely rabid, crazy calendar person. Like I am all right. So here's what I do. There are about 4 things every day I have to do. Whatever, those are done first.
Okay.
Everything else is fluff. Everything else is fluff. And it doesn't matter that the organization I'm in is large or small. It doesn't matter that I have a team or don't have a team. It doesn't matter if you have one team member on your team or 35, 60, 80. It doesn't matter. Calendar is a reflection of your priorities. So I tell people all the time, if your family is your priority, don't say anything to me. You said it, cool. Don't even show me. Just show me your calendar. That period. That's it.
Yeah.
If you and your wife are called to build a business, not the Gordons, but just in general, you plural, then it should reflect in your calendar. The calendar is just a tangible reflection of your priorities. That's all it is. So today, a priority for me was this podcast with you. But I also know what it does to me. In other words, we're gonna talk for a while. We're gonna have fun. We're gonna laugh. We're gonna eat. I'm gonna eat a Cuban sandwich. Thank you to your wife.
I couldn't wait.
Nobody could wait. Thank you, Marlon, for the love there. But anyway, but I also know what it does to me. So I'm evaluating the drain in a positive, and I'm evaluating what. So it's gonna dictate what I do the rest of the day. Yeah. I have 2 more things I have to do today. I'll be done by 3.
Yeah,
that's it. Everything else is fluff. If I want to add to the day, then I add to it. If I don't, I don't. I may want to get ahead for something that's tomorrow or whatever. So I calendar everything. I calendar family time. I calendar time between. I always keep about 15 to 30 minutes between appointments.
You have a name for that, like hallway time, or what do you call
Hallway tackles.
Hallway tackles.
I call them hallway tackles.
Yeah.
I have hallway tackle time.
Yeah.
Like, because our staff is large, but I like you, I love people.
Yeah.
So I don't want everything to be calendared. So I calendar hallway time where I just walk the hallways of the organization. Go, what's up, dude? What's going on? Hey, I heard you're going on vacation. Tell me where you're going. Because I'm energized through people. I love people.
Yeah.
So I calendar that, because if I don't, what I've realized is I will be hallway tackled by two things: someone else's emergency. That's number one. Or number two, my own appetite for connection. I want to connect with John. Hey, man, I heard you're going on vacation. Where are you going to go? Tell me what you're doing. How's your kids? They're graduating, right? That's because I have a craving to connect with my teammate, John. So I will get sidetracked by either my cravings or someone else's emergencies, which aren't necessarily my emergencies. So I calendar everything. It's crazy. Even people who work with me in the office, they're like, did he just calendar my hair appointment, my haircuts? I got everything. And then when there's blank, even the blanks are calendared.
Yeah.
Like think time.
Yeah.
I have think time every day because I think of creative solutions, think of messages I want to write, think of so-and-so. So everything is calendared. And I think the principle that we'd want our partner, and I know you as well, would want our podcast viewers to see and understand is your calendar is literally a tangible representation of your priorities. That's it.
Do you calendar time to be creative? Like,
oh, yeah.
Do you take a certain amount of hours every single week just to be creative?
Yeah. I do, and let me tell you why. Because of my background. So typically creatives will say you don't know when creativity is going to hit. You don't know when creativity is going to happen. And I would say, being around creatives basically my entire life, that is one way creativity works, but it's not the way creativity works. So what I learned in Nashville with songwriters is someone, let's say it's Elton John, Celine Dion, big artist, Billy Joel, they're cutting a record. Well, the record company would go to these songwriters and go, hey, Celine Dion is looking for a ballad, a love ballad. Well, the writers, they call each other and go, hey, Thursday, you want to get together Thursday and write a song and try to get a song on Celine Dion's next record? Well, what are they doing? They're calendaring it. What are they doing? They're predetermining when they're going to be creative.
Yeah.
So when you see, so creativity can all of a sudden, boom, get an idea. Keep a journal, have a voice text. I do that all the time. Voice memo on my phone. I do that all the time. But there are other times when you calendar it as well. So don't put yourself in a box creativity wise. But I calendar creative, or I call it thinking time. Now, in that thinking time, I may be creative or I may be problem solving, which I would argue sometimes takes creativity.
Yeah.
I calendar it almost every day. Not every day is a thinking day for me in that sense, but absolutely. So I just want to encourage everyone. Creativity can happen spontaneously, absolutely, but it's not the way. It's just a way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
I'm in a men's group with Raul, and he actually led last week, and he took the neuroscience of resting and creativity and paired them together and showed the correlation between you're more creative when you're in a resting mind state or mindset. And he's challenged me to take time every single week and just book time to rest to be creative.
Here's
because that same side of the brain is also the restorative side of your brain too. Apparently.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
So there's a saying to that neuroscience, to that metabolic thing that's happening in all of us, men and women, right? Is make in the morning, manage in the afternoon. Make meaning create. Make in the morning, manage in the afternoon. So I make in the morning. So what I'm doing is I'm going, okay, I got to work on a message series, or I'm working on a certain message. My brain's the clearest. It's not had a lot of outside stimuli yet, other than caffeine. Thank God for that. But that's what I do. So based on that neuroscience, I call it make in the morning, manage in the afternoon. So if somebody needs me and there's a system or a process in the organization or my family or whatever, I'm managing those things.
Yeah.
I don't really, and you got to know your rhythms, like you were just saying. I'm more creative, problem solving. I'm better before 12 because I get up super early. I just manage things. I don't make a lot of big decisions after lunch. Now, some of us may not have that luxury.
Yeah.
Try and do as minimal as possible because you got to know your rhythms.
What time do you wake up?
All right, 4:15. This morning was 4:15. I
Time do
usually
you go to bed?
about 11:30. I'm not advocating this, by the way,
Yeah.
because everybody will tell you sleep is all, and you have to have it. For whatever reason, right now in the season of life I'm in, I usually get 4.5 hours sleep. And when I wake up about 4:15, 4:45 every day. Naturally, no alarms, is what I do. I'm not bragging. It's my rhythm I'm in. You know,
That's a blessing.
But right, in the music business, I didn't go to sleep till 3.
Yeah.
So my whole life has flipped.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't deal with people in the morning. I'm looking at my day. I do my personal time with Jesus. I have my devotional, not as a pastor, but just as a man.
Yeah.
So I'm not trying to write messages in the mornings or that part of the morning. And it's quiet. My mind's the freshest. Everything is just a lot simpler, a lot slower. You know what I mean? And I was that way even when our kids are older now, they're married. But right now in the mornings, I acclimate to my day.
Yeah.
So by the time you see me, you know, Jesus kicks in about 10:30. You know what I mean?
Is that before or after the coffee?
Exactly. Well, that's wild. That's during the coffee.
Okay.
You know what I mean? But for me, that's what I make in the morning.
I need to find time to. I know you can't add time back to a day,
Right.
but I need to prioritize more time for my day to do the things I need to do.
Yeah.
And I've been trying to get back to waking up early, and I just cannot. It's a struggle. Like, I can wake up for work, I can wake up to catch a flight, but one thing I need to do that creates like that buffer of stress in my life is work out in the mornings.
Yeah.
Or just work out, period, right?
Right.
If I don't work out for 2 days, I'm grumpy,
Yeah.
right? But I just can't. I can't wake up in the morning to work out, and then if I work out at 8 o'clock or 7 o'clock, I'm getting blown up all day long. It throws off my entire day.
There's no way. By the end of the day, so we were talking about this in the beginning. Right now I'm bike riding a lot. You know, I'll do about 10 to 15 miles a day, and I'll do it in the morning. You know, only because of that. It's a stress reliever for me.
Yeah.
Plus what that does, the bike riding for me, not for everybody, but I would say an activity, it actually just rests my mind because I'm just thinking about in an ease and in a rhythm. So it rests my mind a little bit. And then it's good physical. You know, you're sweating out toxins. We know all these things. We're sweating out toxins. We're getting our body developed as well as our mind. I couldn't do it at night because I'm so mentally exhausted from what I do. I find it like, I don't want to do this. And I'm not relaxing while I'm doing it. I'm working while I'm doing it. Whereas in the morning, I'm just thinking about my day. I might be praying about a situation. I might be praying about a meeting. Yeah. Whereas at the end of the day, my mind is already fried. Yeah. You know what I mean? And so I can't do it because I can't shut my mind off. You know, and I know this is crazy. Don't do this. Don't anybody do this. But I actually will calendar naps. And people are like, well, can you fall asleep on command? And you can't. I can't.
I almost can.
Well, right. That means you're tired. but I can sometimes. But I'll go, hey, I'm going to take 90 minutes to do nothing. Now, reading makes me a little sleepy. So I'll read a little bit. And then before you know it, I take what they call a classic power nap. 45 minutes, 60 minutes. And it's like octane.
Yeah.
I'm good for another 6 hours.
Yeah.
But I'm good with calendaring that. Because the key to calendaring is not thinking that you're ever wasting time. We all waste time, but never thinking we're wasting time. So I used to think, well, sit and think. Sit and be creative. You know, like we were talking, that's a waste. Just go do. See?
Yeah.
Do. But metaphysically, we know, metabolically, we know, when we're rested, we're more effective.
Yeah, hearing Raul talk about it last week, it made me think about, like, I take lots of meetings throughout the day. Like, if you see my calendar right now, it's absolute chaos.
Right.
It's meetings, right? But I'm like, I'm investing in all these other people, which is great.
Yep.
But should I invest in myself? Like, let me take this hour, like, at least once a week, right? Or 2 hours, whatever it is.
Not crazy.
And invest in myself so I can be better for them.
Yeah. And what happens, in our organization, we say the greatest gift you can give your family or your staff is a healthy you. Mm-hmm. And so hopefully that gives the people permission to go, no, you know what? I'm taking out an hour and a half today. I'm going to read. I'm just going to relax. I'm going to take a nap. I'm going to take a friend to lunch that it really has nothing to do with, let's say, work or business or visioneering. We're just gonna hang out and laugh together.
Yeah.
When you really grab onto that statement, the healthiest thing you can give people is a healthy you. You don't allow what other people's expectation of you to dictate you, because you're good with you.
Yeah.
And that's the hard thing. I can remember even in the music business when I would be like, man, we just finished a record. We finished mixing. It's 15-hour days, 12 days straight. You know, I would go, hey man, I'm going to take 2 days and do nothing but, you know, hang with the family, go to a park, take a walk, whatever. And everybody would be like, yeah, but we got to work on the marketing. Yeah, but you're going to do what? We got a record coming out. And so what happens is, and they meant it in a good way, but it's this little, what I would call like this pressure from people, this kind of thing like, hey, they want you. But man, because I lived, Marlon, so much of my life out of balance with loving my career, loving exercising my talents and gifts, you know, I sacrificed a lot of family time in the beginning of my career. And I was unhealthy, although effective. I was not a good husband or a dad, although effective in my career. So what I did an exchange. And what I realized is you can have both. You can have a healthy, thriving family and also be a very career-centric, accomplished, successful leader. But there's no time for fluff.
So what you just said reminded me of 5 words.
Yeah.
I think it's 5 words. We'll see. That doesn't work for me.
And the reason why, and Marlon's getting that from a message I spoke a couple of weeks ago, is because that was one of the hardest statements. Because I felt like, I felt like if I said no, I let you down. I felt like if I said no to me, to relaxing or replenishing, what we call it or whatever, I felt like a slacker. When in reality, all of these people had these demands of me, which is flattering and which is wonderful and nice. But it actually wasn't working for me because I was draining me. I was an unhealthy father, husband, whatever it was. But boy, they were fulfilled. But boy, they got the best of me.
Yeah.
And that's where it really started to change for me, was when I adopted that statement and just going, you know, it just doesn't work. And then if they got mad, ticked off, went on to another client, didn't use my services, didn't want to go to our church, well, that's not on me.
Yeah.
That's on them. And I get it. That's between you and God in that case, you know what I mean? But for me, I just had to get it will be for our listeners and viewers, that is the hardest statement, people, because you then have to wear it.
Yeah.
You got to go, yeah, that doesn't work for me. I can't do that. It was like trying to get together for this podcast. You're busy. I'm busy. I think there were times when you could have, and I could have crammed it in and got it, and it would have been fun. It would have been right. But you change then from just fitting it into, is that the most effective?
Yeah.
See, the mature leader and the healthy leader doesn't talk about getting it done. They talk about it getting it done the most effective way.
Yep.
And the way that you do that is by understanding calendaring, resting, replenishing, and coming at you at my best.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's hard.
I think I've accepted the fact that I should be saying that doesn't work for me, right? And it's always been difficult for me because one of my top personality traits is like win others over. Like I want to serve, I want to be there for people. Right. But then there was one day I came home and Ash and I were having a conversation about something. I probably did something stupid. I don't know what it was, right? And she was saying that you always give the best version of yourself to everybody else, and then when you come home, I just get the rest.
Right.
And I was like,
I
got to fix this,
right?
Yeah. So I think I'm getting better at prioritizing my time, and you know, now it's not work, family, God.
Right.
It's God, family, work.
Yeah. And that tension between those three will never, ever change.
Yeah.
Because especially when you're someone, let's say like you, who is in their gifting, who has a lot of fruit, good things happening by utilizing and using your gifting, an organization that does a lot of good in our community. What happens is the rush of that, the fulfillment of that is awesome and great, and it should be. But if it overshadows everything else, that's what you'll gravitate towards. Yep. And that's what's really, so there's always this tension, God, family, our profession, God,
Yeah.
family. There's always that tension because then there are seasons.
Mm-hmm.
There are seasons like in our world now, at the church world, you know, seasons, let's say we just came off a big, busy season, Easter and Christmas.
Yeah.
So for us, Easter, it's like the Super Bowl. Everybody wants to come to church and we're glad about it. It's great. But what I've done is I've calendared already that I've told my family weeks up to Easter, you're not going to see me as much. It's a season.
Yeah.
And then right after Easter, I'm exhausted,
Yeah.
so I'm not giving anybody the best. So I've already calendared a replenish trip. But it's a season. Seasons have beginning and ends. The hard thing is when our seasons turn into lifestyles, when it's always that of just coming home and you get my leftovers, coming home and, baby, I just got to lay down. I just worked 15 hours and the kids run into the room and I go, Dad, you want to play catch? Dad, I want to go to this. And you're like, what? I just worked 15 hours. I just paid for the electricity in the house. That was my line. That was, which is not, which by the way, don't ever use that.
No,
don't
I'm
use it. It's
taking
not
it.
good
I'm
for the
taking
marriage
it.
or the family. But when you have your priorities a little twisted, those are the things you look at.
Yeah.
But what I found when the calendaring and you're prioritizing, there is no room for fluff unless the fluff exists at a I know there's a lot, but I get into this. Unless the fluff is connected to priority.
Mm-hmm.
So my priority is relationships with the people that answer to me in our organization. Well, what I've done is I've calendared time with them, which includes fluff time.
Yeah.
Hey man, your son's graduating, he's getting married. I got someone who works with me, he's been working with me 14 years. His kids are engaged now. So we calendared time to go out and, you know, have lunch, but then talk about his family because that's priority. So it's fluff time, but it's prioritized fluff time.
Yeah.
You know, it'd be like you and your wife.
Mm-hmm.
You need time, just you and your wife. And you know this, we're just saying for our viewers to just do, it might be fluff, catch up. What's going on? What are you concerned about? You have any questions about so-and-so? We kind of blew through last week and I call that fluff time, but it's still very, very important. But out of that, dude, there's just not a lot of, I just don't have a lot of fluff.
Yeah.
You can't. Not as a family man, not as a godly man, and not as someone who's actually working with purpose and vision.
Yeah.
There's no way. I can't do it. I tried it and I screwed it up.
Yeah.
and I screwed a lot of people up. You know what I mean? But
Let's
so
not
does that
do
make,
that.
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a discipline for sure. You know,
So speaking about discipline, would you say how you start your day sets your day?
I would say
Would you?
so.
Would you now?
I would.
What do we have
Wait,
here?
oh,
What do
how
we-
convenient.
what do we have
How
here?
interesting
Yeah,
that this showed
What
up.
is this about?
There it is.
Yeah.
Somebody asked me the other day, and I didn't know them that well, and I was on this thing. They said, what was this? What's this book about? And I went, I don't know. I was bored. And they took it serious, but that was not true. For me, what I have found is that because of influence, leadership is influence, that if you don't declare and decide first who I am and what I'm about, the day does. So I leave the house, I got a busy day, I have my coffee, I might read my Bible, I might kiss my wife, pet the dog, kick the dog, whatever it is before I leave. All of a sudden, if I'm not equipped with my identity and knowing who I am, my identity, and what do I do? What is my purpose here? What is it? Then everything else during the day shapes, molds, and guides me. And that's hard because what we can't control, Marlon, is how people are going to come at me. What condition is my meeting? I'm going to walk into a meeting. I don't know the condition of these people. I may know them, but they may have had a fight with their wife. They may have lost a relative that I'm unaware of. So they're coming at me in a certain way. Positive, negative, doesn't matter. It's an unknown. So if I don't declare and decide who I am first, I am then giving more power or chance to them turning me into an angry person, them turning me, because of whatever condition they're in or whatever they're going to say, whatever they're going to do, them turning me into, or them affecting me to where I become harsh or crass or I'm angry now. Yeah. It's like, no. And I've lived so much of my life like that I've had to determine, wait, is my life really my own, or am I just a victim in a sense by what everybody else is going to dictate because of the condition they're in that I can't control? So that's why I did. How you start your day sets your day. I remind myself every day who I am, whose I am, and what am I here to do.
Yeah.
And so you could declare and decide in the morning, and it increases your chances of being shaped, molded, and guided by the one who created you, not by the created.
Oh, I love that.
And that's really what the impetus was for the 40 days of just, what are these thoughts that we have to hide in our heart, like the Bible says? What are these mindsets that we have to constantly be having, which are a filter for our words and our actions? Because if not, we forget them, and then the day will jack us. You know what I mean? I mean, especially, and it doesn't matter what you do. It could be your kids. It could be a vice president. It could be a support staff. Could be people in the community. I went out. You'll love this. I went out to get coffee.
Yeah.
I got coffee the other day, and I'm in a different part of Florida. So I'm not going to say the city, Lakeland. I was in Lakeland. And I go to Starbucks. I'm like 2:30 is coffee time, right? So I go get coffee. This person was probably the rudest person. They didn't look at me. They just looked at me. They didn't say, "What can I get you?" I walked in. They just looked at me. I looked at them, and I looked behind me. I was like, "Oh, you want my order?" It was the most bizarre exchange. They were almost mad that I was there spending money or buying coffee. Now watch. Here's the deal. What does that have to do with me? I am who I am. I'm nice. I'm congenial. I treat people the way God wants me to treat people, not the way you treat me. Now, I may have to put boundaries. I may have to don't get me wrong. I got all that. But you're not going to, we should never give people the power to change us. Only God gets to do that. So ready? My first reaction inside, don't get me wrong, I'm human, was like, what? You should be thanking me. My money is paying your salary. I got it all in my head. I got the argument. I got it. I've had the argument.
Yeah.
Right. But then I realized, wait, because of that ill disposition, because of that, that's going to ruin my day. That's going to make me angry, make me sad, make me frustrated. No.
Yeah.
That's too much power to give away, man. Yeah. And I can't do it. Yeah. So that's part of the idea. You know what I mean? Of going, if I wouldn't have declared and decided, that I might have increased the chances of that person's condition affecting my condition.
Yeah, too many people today let other people get in their heads and control their emotions. Like, I just avoid people, avoid situations, whatever it is, because I'm not going to let you influence who I am. Right? You got to protect yourself.
Exactly right. Yeah. And a lot of times we're in situations that we can't control, that our people are not. I was in a meeting. Today's I forgot what today's Thursday. So Monday afternoon, I'm in a meeting with people in our community. They're just mean. They're cutting. They're a little crass. They're very curt, very short. It was like they didn't want to be in the meeting, but we had to be in the meeting.
It was like an HOA meeting or something?
Yeah, I was going to say it was like typical HOA people. No, they're just kidding. But it was leaders in our community, and I was going, if I wouldn't have, oh man, I would have went Brooklyn so fast. Yeah. And there are times, don't get me wrong, there are times when you have to for sure be very clear and concise and complete to teach people how you want to be treated. Like, don't say that to me. Don't talk to me that way. I'm not advocating being a rug to be stepped on. What I'm saying is, don't give people the power. Yeah. And the way you don't give people the power to change you is declare and decide in the morning, because how you start your day sets your day.
I love it.
That's,
so the proceeds of this book go towards something special to you.
Well, and you're very aware. You're very aware of where they go.
A little aware.
You have blessed Marlon, as you've blessed our internship so much with your leadership and what you do at NxtGen, and the students love you. You're involved this year again.
Yeah, we had our first call yesterday.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah.
Yeah. It is the joy. I shouldn't say this, but I'll say it. Maybe edit it out later. Who knows?
I think it's edited.
If I had to do just one thing, it would be lead the internship. Now we have leaders now who do it. Brad Chandler, who also produces the Just Lead, leads the internship. It is the joy of my life. There's a lot of joys I have in my life, but that's a big one. I just made so many mistakes because really two reasons. One, I didn't have the right people in my life to go, hey, don't do that. That's probably not going to end up. I didn't have that. So I went on my emotions. I went on my feelings. I went on what I thought other people wanted from me. And then the second thing was I didn't really understand the idea of God has a purpose for me. You know what I mean? I grew up a performance-based acceptance idea, meaning the better I do, the more God loves me. The worse I do, God's disappointed and, throws his eyebrows down at me like, oh, shouldn't have died for you. Died for everybody else, but not you. So I grew up with that. So the main thing is in the internship is what we teach is God has already gifted you with gifts and talents for a specific purpose. So let us help you figure that out, number one. And then number two is leadership. Marlon, I'm always fascinated, and it's still to this day, it's gotten better, but relationships are the key to every single thing we do in our life. Yet we don't teach it in colleges, really. We don't teach emotional IQ in colleges. We don't really. Now, there's other places, there's some classes and courses, but meanwhile, relationships are they're the gatekeepers to our careers. They're one of the primary ways that God blesses us. Mm-hmm. Yet we don't teach how to read people, how to deal with people. We don't teach how do you handle these kind of people. We don't teach any of that at a higher level. And so that's really what we concentrate on, your God-given gifts, talents, and purpose, but then leadership.
Yeah.
How do you lead someone who hates you? Because that's going to happen.
Oh, yeah.
How do you lead people who don't want to go where you're taking them? How do you do that? So it is the thing, one of the top three things I get so excited about when I wake up in the morning is our internship.
So I was talking to the interns yesterday. It was our very first call, like intro call. This is who we are, what we're all about. Tell us about you, that whole thing, right? And we were taught. I brought up the topic of relationships and opportunities. And I was like, hey guys, like you have to get through this class to graduate the intern program, right? And you can all do it. We're going to help you get through it. But I was like, I don't want you to discount the opportunities that are here and the relationships that you're going to build by going through this program. And I was like, you never know. You may have an opportunity one day to work with one of the sharks one day, right?
Yeah.
Or like there could be more than just the win of the investment that they get if they win the Shark Tank program, right? Yeah. And I know me personally, just being one of the co-leaders for this with Lisha, you're amazing.
We love her.
By the way, she told me to let you know that she had 28,000 views on her podcast when I had her on.
God, if I don't listen, is the whole team listening? If I don't get past 28,000, then that's I'm gonna come work for NxtGen. That's what I'm gonna do.
That could be fun.
That could be fun.
That would be fun.
That could be crazy, but fun. We'd have a lot of fun.
Yeah,
Lisha's great.
But I was like even me personally, like I've built relationships with fellow sharks and fellow students and Lisha and so on that have been super helpful. Like Will Perez has been he's such a huge blessing to me,
he's
right?
So gifted,
Stephen Hand, same thing. And all people that I would have never had a chance to meet had I not answered the call to be part of this internship
Exactly
program.
right. And I think that's, for our viewers and listeners that don't know, we have at the end, year 4, we do a Shark Tank presentation.
Oh, it is awesome.
To where, and why, again, leadership. So many leaders fail or fall short because they have a great vision. But a lot of it, what happens is a lot of visionaries, they got a vision that's great. But here's the idea. They can't communicate the vision. They can't communicate the vision or compel people to the vision. So that was the whole idea, of course, based off the show, the Shark Tank, is these young leaders are to put together an idea, a craft, and then have to get investments. Well, guess what? That's what you're going to do your whole life. I don't even care if it's just about your family. Yeah. You're going to try to convince your family, we're going to go on vacation, but we don't have a lot of money right now, so we're going to call it a staycation. And we're going to stay around the house, and we're going to you got to sell that idea. You have to give them the vision. You have to, so at every level it works. And of course, you're a player on that and a shark on that. But you've also hired some of our graduates, which is much to my chagrin, because he gave them more money than we could give them.
You always said church isn't just a place you go to; it's a place you go from.
Yeah,
and Calista came to NxtGen.
Yeah, great. I'm so glad about that, Marlon. Thanks for mentioning that. But that is the blessing, and trying to show these young leaders. You have to be able to communicate the vision and the idea. And it's been, wildly successful. We'll have, 100 something interns this year, and it's based on an academy idea, you know what I mean, of going, this isn't babysitting, this isn't youth camp, nothing wrong with those things, but this is invite only. So these young leaders have already had to have shown leadership in the church or in the community. So it's an invite only program, you know what I mean? And so that's part of what the heartbeat of it is to prepare them, but then also know you're going to meet, other than graduating from the program, you're going to meet a lot of young entrepreneurs, men and women, businessmen and women that, hey, they're going to hire you. And then we're so incredibly blessed. We've had a lot of success, even people, again, because it's not just professional ministry, it's also marketplace. You know, we just graduated someone from West Point who went academic honors, you know, unbelievable.
That's
we
so
have
awesome.
Boston College, you know, Tim Jackson, who's the defensive coordinator assistant for Boston College, graduated from our program. So we're seeing, and then there's a lot of businesses in the community that are calling us now going, hey, who's graduating from this internship program? We want to at least interview them. So they get to the front of the line right away. So I could talk about this forever because it's just such a heartbeat of mine. You know, I love it because I didn't have it. And I don't mean like, you know, play the small violin for Mark Q, but a lot of times, and I've talked about this in the devotional, the pain of something that we have in life, what God always does is pain is either a prison or a platform. And the pain of not really having these relationships growing up caused me to make a lot of mistakes and caused me to miss a lot of opportunities. Well, the pain of that is now a platform, and that's really the internship and helping these young leaders. So we love it.
Well, my pain is actually my fuel for doing the internship because I didn't have those things, just like you, right? Like I told him yesterday, if I had an internship program like this to go through when I was their age, I'd be like 10 years ahead of where I am right now. But I didn't have this back then.
It's crazy. It is really that. It's so cliche, and sometimes I hate it because, you know, sometimes cliches are true and they have a lot of depth to them, but we discard them because they become cliches. But the reality is if I knew then what I know now, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
And that's the fuel, exactly. And that's why I love what you said. It is the fuel to really kind of shape and mold the next generation, you know what I mean, of leaders to wherever God's bringing them, whether professional ministry or marketplace, equally is important to God, you know, so.
I love it. Well, hey, PQ, thank you so much.
Come on, man. Are we done?
Out.
I've got a Cuban sandwich waiting on me.
You said you have like 2 more things to do, so I don't want to hold you
I'm
up.
busy. Okay, guys, it's calendar.
Busy, you're in demand.
I'd like to say that. Very in demand.
Well, how can people get a hold of the chapel, find the podcast, get the book, all those things?
The podcast is called Just Lead, and you can find it anywhere where you get your podcast, whether it's Apple Music, whether it's Spotify. And then you can go to our website, thechapel.cc, if you're really looking maybe for a place to worship, or you want to kind of see, does this guy really talk like Brooklyn? Thechapel.cc is the website. And then, of course, Amazon. It's sold on Amazon. You know, for us, How You Start Your Day, Set Your Day on Sale. We're in our second printing. Crazy. 100% of all of the proceeds go to the internship, underwrite the internship. So when you buy a How You Start Your Day, Set Your Day, it's supporting the future leaders of America. It's not supporting my 9,000 square foot home. I'm just kidding. That's a lot. But so 100% of proceeds go to the internship. You can buy it on Amazon. And then you can buy it at the church at any time. Church is always open over at 8833 Mitchell Road in Trinity, Florida.
And hold on a second. Like I know said we're about to wrap.
Yeah.
But let's talk about the church real quick.
Crazy.
And you're a disruptor for one, and you're super innovative.
Yeah.
Like you have the coffee shop, you have the shopping center. That's crazy.
Yeah, it was a little crazy. We were also, stupid's a harsh word. I hear my mother going, don't ever say stupid. But it was a little bit of the way it worked. You know, we built out the church during COVID, and, you know, we had just started. So all of COVID, we were still building or trying to build, which was crazy. But the quick and dirty story is, you know, we needed a place that was bigger. The church was growing, and that's fine, but you have to be fiduciary responsible, you know, so you have to be careful of the budget, you know, that whole thing. There was a place, it was an old sweet bay, you know, and we were going to lease it, long-term lease, build it out, and have church in there, which was great. And the guy who owned it was one of the last shopping centers he owned.
Mm.
and he owned like 9 of them. But this was it. And I said, hey, if you ever want to sell, just as a whim,
Yeah.
I said, if you ever want to sell, let me know. And he was like, nah, I'm not going to do that. I want to save it for my grandkids. Lo and behold, 8 months later, I see him. He calls. He's in town, doesn't live in Florida. He's in town and goes, hey, you want to get coffee? I was like, sure. I'm a people person, like we were talking about. I love people. So he said, you know what? I thought about my grandkids. Those grandkids are ingratitude. They're ingracious. You said you want to buy it. Make me an offer. And I already had it. That's why for leaders, you're always prepared.
Yeah.
The Bible talks about being being ready in and out of season, right? So I already knew.
Yeah.
And I gave him the price, and I'm telling you that day, so it was over coffee. And he went, no problem. I'll drop the paperwork. And I left going, did we just buy an entire shopping center? Because I had done the upfront work, which was think time calendared, that it was cheaper for us to buy the shopping center with all the leases than it would be to just renovate a space. And so I already had done the work going, oh, I don't know, God, maybe he wants to have coffee because he wants to sell it. And lo and behold. So here we are 3 years later. We own the entire shopping center. We're very fortunate, built out the Suite Bay, added a second floor. So it's about 91,000 square feet now. But that is the story. An unconventional disruptor. I remember when we told the county, a church owns a shopping center? And then, believe it or not, most people don't know this, Rulu Coffee is located in the front. It's a separate entity. So it's open its own hours. It's literally some of the best coffee you will ever have in our area. It's awesome. It was really created for a place for our internships to navigate relationships.
Oh.
Most people don't know that. Most people think, oh, they just created a bit. We didn't create a business. We're in the business of building people.
Yeah.
Okay, so, but it was a place that was real, that had real people exchanging real money in real life situations for our interns to learn people skills. And then it just turned into like, wow, we got a lot of write-ups on how great the coffee is and what an excellent experience it is, and the atmosphere is awesome.
Yeah.
So it's really, so right in the front, you'll see it's called Rulu Coffee, which means raise up, lift up.
Raise up, lift up.
Raise up, lift up.
Let's go.
Yeah, so anyway, so that's where you can find us.
Awesome. Hey, thanks again, man. Appreciate you. You've been a blessing to me.
Oh,
and
thank
so
you,
many
buddy,
other
so much.
people.
Thank you. Thank you, man. Love being here. Love what you guys do, how you support NxtGen leaders and all that. Love what you guys do. Always love your family so much, other than, you.
Oh.
No, I love you. We really, because Ashley runs the show. Ashley's already going like this behind the scenes going, this is too long. Shut the pastor up. We love her, though. You got to take it with a grain of salt. Love you, buddy.
You too, man.
All right.